Welcome to our Welcome Friends Rustic Fall banner. We've done this really neat little rustic wood design that has 3 pieces. We've put them all together with this nice twine or jute, and I need to fluff mine just a little bit still. And then I'll hang it with a piece of twine or jute at the top as well. So I think it's just a lovely way to welcome in that kind of like aged fall time. And it's a quick and easy project. And you'll learn some things. There's some dry brushing in it, and there's a really cool crackle technique and background technique. That's what I really wanted to do here, was to get as much texture and background crackle as I could. So I think that you're going to enjoy that part. So I hope you enjoy the lesson. Happy painting. All right, the first thing you want to do with masonite is you want to seal it with a good sealer. The multi-purpose sealer works with all the Deco Art Americana paints, and it makes a nice unified paint sandwich when we get done. So I'm going to use this little foamy roller. Sorry, trying to figure out what we call this. A little foamy roller. All right, and we're going to go back and forth and just roll the sealer on. You can seal the edges. If you're going to hang it outside, do make sure you seal the edges. If you're not going to, you can skip that and then just get both sides. And as you start running out, you can press a little bit, and you can come up here and just pick up just a little bit more. When you're dry brushing, you want a little bit of pebbly texture, so it's a really good idea to roll your finish, because that will give you the pebbly texture all built in. All right, and then we'll allow it to dry and do the back. Okay, while I'm waiting for this to dry, I went ahead and rinsed this out at the sink. I've got a nitrile glove on, which is a non-latex glove, and I use that for cleaning up any of these things that are just going to get my hands full of paint and stain them and stuff. But this little roller, what's cool about it is it comes apart. So this little tube goes through the middle, just like a big curling roller. That's what the word is. And then it clips on the edge here, so you can take it apart to clean. And what I love about that is that I can get this in my hand, and I can really get it squishing underneath the water, and that makes it clean all the way through the whole thing, versus the ones on the metal spike that get rusted over time and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really appreciating how simple this very inexpensive little roller is. It just has like lots of really good features. And the other thing that I was saying in a different video is when you put this, let me grab a different one. When you've got this in your hand, normally I have to hold it like this, and I'm doing this kind of action. But because the handle is flexible and thin, I can easily do this like I'm painting. So it's like a brush roller in a way, and it's like a roller on, like it's like a paintbrush on a roller skate. So it goes faster and easier than the paintbrush does, and I don't know, it's pretty exceptional. But I thought I'd share those little tidbits with you. Okay, we're going to use weathered wood, which is a chemical crackle medium. So this means that we can put it on our surface, we can dry it, and we can leave it for forever if we want to. And when we come back and put paint on top, this and this don't agree with each other, and that causes this crackling effect. Some crackle mediums are time-based. You have to get them done while they're still wet, and you have to move quickly, and it takes a lot of organization. So I really like weathered wood for that purpose. When you're putting the initial coat down, it does not matter at all which direction you go. When you put the top coat on, your paint color, that matters completely. It will crack in the direction of your strokes. So I'm just going to slip slap a little bit and really pushing quite hard to put it into the surface. Otherwise it kind of tends to gel back up. And I want to kind of tell a story, like I've got, if you can see my little blobs here, if I just put polka dots here and there, then it's going to look really ugly when it crackles. So I try to kind of make it like a brook, like a babbling, moving body of water or a pathway, and tell a little story about where the cracks came from or whatever. And that way it's not random and ugly. Ugly is bad, right? And I don't want it everywhere. And I probably want more to the outside than to the middle, because that's where my art's going to be, and I don't want to make it too distracting. Okay, so go ahead and let that dry, and then we'll apply the top coat. Okay, so to put the, I'm going to use some neutral gray, and I'm going to use a big oval glaze, and I'm going to keep my brush, instead of up on its toe like that, I'm going to keep my brush a little bit more like a pat of paint. And I'm going to just go ahead and go near the edges. Try not to shove a whole bunch of stuff over the edge. I'm picking up thick paint because I really like thick crackle. And I'm going to go away from the edge when I'm up there, and then I'll pull it. I'm not going to really give it too much of a pattern. But if I'm brushing this way, my cracks are going to run that way, and if I'm brushing this way, they'll run this way. So just be aware that that does make a difference. And so I'll pat and then pull a little bit. And then you've got to stay out of your crackle as you're applying your paint over it. If I go back and I touch in this area right, put you on camera, if I touch in this area right here that I just applied paint to, this will actually lift it off, and I'll create a big like gooby mess right there. So you definitely don't want to touch it again until it dries, after you apply the paint. I go in and I get out real quick. I tell people when I'm teaching classes, get the heck out of there. So yeah, it's really important not to play and puddle around in crackle medium. And what's neat is as long as you don't get too many ridges, like that's kind of a big ridge right here, as long as you don't get too many ridges, all this messy, glommy kind of looking paint, see how much paint there is on there? All of that will actually dry flat. I don't know how that works. I don't know if it's the crackle medium, but it's really neat that it does, because it allows me to have really thick crackle and thick cracks and get the look I like, and get thin flat paint when it's done. Okay, so I'll just do this to all three. All right, so I don't like how flat this is looking, and so I'm going to go ahead and just do a layering effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take mistletoe and peacock teal, and I'm going to, pardon me, dry throat. I'm going to go ahead and streak in some colors, or I might want to chip off some paint. And then I'm going to go in with the next color and kind of layer those off together. And they can go over each other, they can go next to each other. Don't cover it all up or it's useless. I'm definitely wanting something just a little bit more spirited. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. All right, so next what we're going to do is take some petroleum jelly, and we're going to streak this where I want to chip this off, where we want things to chip. I want to show both colors, so it's super important to kind of chip it through both, and then I like it to stagger just a little bit. And I'm also going to crackle as well, so I'm going to have a couple of techniques going on. And everywhere where I put this, there will be chipped, cracked paint. I'll bring some over on our gray as well. Up here on the top. Okay, so there's my pattern, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the other two pieces. Okay, so now we're going to go in through and crackle. My brush is still wet, so I'm going to dry it off. And we're just going to take some crackle medium here and there in areas where I'm not going to do the relief. Not everywhere, just here and there, especially maybe towards my edges. Okay, so I'll chip that on there. I really want that purple, that teal color and the green color to show. Okay, and then I'll repeat. So I have to let this dry, although the petroleum jelly will never be dry. So you just want to let the weathered wood dry. Okay, so I've got a little mixture of bittersweet chocolate, soft black, lamp black, and charcoal gray. I think you could probably use any one of those colors, and I keep putting my fingers in my crackle medium. That's funny. That's 3 times in a row. Okay, let's move that over there. Yuck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay, just like I did before, I'm going to lay the paint down on, I'm going to pick up a whole pile here. And I'm going to just lay it gently, patting it over the top of all that mess. And then I'm just going to get out of it. So I'm scooping pretty heavily. I'm laying it down away from the edge and then going back up next to my edge because I don't want it to go goopy all over the edge. I like the color. If I miss a couple spots, that'll be fine. Try to make it flat with not a lot of ridges, but not, don't worry about it not drying and flattening out. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cover the rest of it. All right, I left these to dry overnight, and so now we're going to see what we get. I'm going to use my handy scraper, and I'm just going to run it pretty meanly, aggressively down the board, and let the paint peel and chip off where the paint wants to peel and chip off. And then what I'll do is I'll take this over to the sink and I'll spray it with a little bit of degreaser, and that's what's going to make it so that my paint will my paint will stick for the next step. And then you can also take it and go sand after you get it degreased. If you sand it, then you'll get some really nice distressed looking stuff, and then I think I'll probably glaze over it so it's not so screaming loud. Something in the middle needs to give here. All right, that's the effect. Isn't that kind of cool? All right, now I've gone ahead and sanded to roughen up just some of the other areas. And I've got my media acrylic carbon black, and I'm going to do a wash. I can get to my water. A wash is just like 80% water and 20% paint. And then I'm going to go over these areas just to deepen. I don't want them quite as bright as they are. And the media paints are kind of sheer, so that's going to help just give them a glaze instead of covering them all up. So see what the difference is there? And I can wipe it back if I want to. It's a little bit too strong. I've washed off the wax, but I'm still getting just a little bit of resist. So if you need to, just use a little bit of soap and water to get the wax residue broken. And so that'll just kind of meld everybody together just a little bit. Okay, let's just see what the difference is between that and that. Much brighter, and now we have this kind of duller look, and I think that'll look better. Okay, so we are basing the little wheelbarrow with cocoa, and then we've gone and scumbled over the top of it with a little wash of burnt umber. I had to do a little test, so I'll show you what this looks like on the foot. Get it nice and based. And then in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll base this wheel in black. All right, we're going to go around around the center area of our wheelbarrow using this big dome brush, and we're going to just lighten it just a little bit so our wheel shows up. Mist it out just a little bit, gives it a little bit more framed effect. Just going to run through things. It'll be darker underneath there. So that just gives it just a little bit. Now we'll go ahead and take our round brush and our lamp black, and now our black will show up. So sometimes it's just all about contrast, and you have to find a way to make the contrast happen. And so see, you can see that wheel now. Okay, and then over our wood, we'll go in with our round brush, and then we'll just go ahead and give it just a little bit of a kind of a glazed dry brush, just to make it, so by putting it in cocoa behind, what happens is we're getting it a little bit brighter by having that lighter color underneath than just base coating with brown. And that gives us the ability to have a brighter wood versus a dark wood. All right, with dry brushing, we're going to do a sequence of colors. We're going to start with our darkest. Our actual shading color is going to be the background here. And then we're going to start with our darkest, and we're going to highlight, highlight, highlight using a dirty brush and using a, what I call Patty's favorite dry brush. It is a filbert brush, so it's cut at an oval at the tip, and it's also shaved this way, and it's very, very bouncy. So what we're going to do first is we're going to load our brush. We're going to put our paint onto the tip. Notice I'm not going in the middle and pulling it out. I'm just putting it in just at the tip and pulling out. And I'm getting it saturated, and it's filling up actually on top. And every now and again you'll see me kind of twist my brush just a little bit, and that's going to make it get those saddlebags off the edges. Okay, so then I flick on my flat paper towel. You don't want to use a wadded up paper towel because it peels all the paint off of the middle. And then notice that I have a big wad of paint, big nice ball of paint right there. That is what you want, and the reason we flick on the paper towel is so we don't have stop and start marks over here. So then we're going to go over here, and we're just going to very gently, just a little bit more paint. The juicier your paint, the better off you are. You'll have to play with this, so make sure that you don't like just get going on your piece without practicing a few times. We want to leave the spaces in between not base coated, and that way it provides the very first step of shading. Okay, so I'll just get that kind of nice and going, and that's our first coat of orange, and then we'll build. And then the other thing we don't want to do is we don't want to connect this pumpkin to that pumpkin. So this pumpkin's behind, so we'll leave this just barely getting close to touching it, and that is going to give us our shading as well. You'll see a little bit more of that as we continue on. Okay, and then I'll just do the middle. We'll do them by sections. Okay, I'll flick on the paper towel. Notice I'm just reloading as I need to. And then I'm letting it just skim right over the top of all this crackle and all this great texture that I've got going. That just is really going to add. I really wanted a weathered piece. This pumpkin is almost falling out of the barrel or out of the wagon. So go ahead and just get everybody the nice coat of paint. Bring it all the way, almost touching. And oops, we've got one more section I'm missing there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe out my brush, not like furiously, just gently, and then I'm going to load dirty brush into the next color. And what that will do is it will make this color and this color a family. So even if these colors didn't go together, they'll have the same DNA, and therefore they will be a unified family. Now you never want to dry brush where things are wet, so this pumpkin is wet, so I'll come back over here to the beginning, and this time I'll just do a little bit less, and you should start seeing more pumpkin-y looking shapes. Okay, then we'll go over here. What I like about this is it is so much faster than base coating everything. I really appreciate the that we can eliminate that base coat step. Flick on our paper towel. Start our highlight steps. Now as we get closer to the top, which is the ending parts of the, like the highlights, we'll want to make sure that we don't give everybody the same attention. The pumpkins that are in front are going to be the pumpkins that get most highlighted. Now I'll wipe that out and we'll move over into our burnt orange. And that will also be dirty brush. Flick on our paper towel. And then we'll come over here to our front sections and we'll give them a little highlight. Our sides. Okay, now they start looking a little bit like pumpkins. And I'm a little bit wet everywhere. So don't take my own advice. Don't do this while it's wet. So just a little bit down on there. And now it starts looking like we're actually doing something. And this guy right here has got a piece of paintbrush laying across it. So we'll come over here, we'll gently do that, gently do that. Notice I spend a lot less time on my highlights as I get going across, get into the lighter stuff. And I'm just barely even touching. Bring that down just a little bit more. Okay, now I think that this guy in the back here is going to stop getting highlights. He's just going to get his middle section highlighted. And now we're going to see if we've jumped too far. We're going to go right into marigold. And then watch what happens to marigold when we have a little bit. I'm going to dirty that up just a little bit. I'm going to make that secondary color so it's like a bright orange, but I don't have to buy another bottle of paint. Okay, so now we'll come over here and we'll get that brighter highlight right there. And just a little bit more. And so now see how that looks like sections. And I'll keep mixing in just a little bit of that orange. And then we'll come up here. Okay, and see how that's lifting that out. Okay, and then that guy becomes behind. Okay, and we can give him just a little bit of highlight here and here, just to keep him in the same kind of general family. And then we'll go into our marigold without mixing, except for what's in our dirty brush, which is still going to make it an orange. And we'll go look for a little bit of moments here to make it pop even better. Okay, see how that does? It's really amazing when you can see it with a little distance like you've got. Just that little teeny bit just really pops a section. So I'm just not even bringing it down very far. I'm just hitting the tops. And then this guy is still the back pumpkin. And so we give him just a little bit of care. Okay, so there we have a bucket full of pumpkins and we didn't have to hardly do any work at all. Okay, so we want to see if we can glaze some richer color, which is what I love about the media acrylics. And so see what that does. It just makes it incredible. So I'm using quinacridone burnt orange. And I'm just using ever so slight amount. Oops, I've got it floated on both sides of my brush. If your float is not pretty on your palette, it will not be pretty on your project. So make sure that you take care to make it pretty. All right, and then we'll come across the bottom and just up a little bit on the sides. And that just gives it just that little bit of warmth. And we'll come up over here, same thing, right next door. Same thing over here. Don't be afraid to rotate your project around. That's how you get control of your brush. Okay, so see what that's doing? They're just kind of coming alive. It's amazing how just one little glaze One little glaze can make all the difference. And come across. I'm trying to decide if I want a little teeny bit of red in there, and I kind of don't think so. So I think I'll let that sit for right now, put that paint away. Okay, now we'll do a little dry brushing on our cart. I'm going to use some cocoa. Okay, so now we're going to go into our cocoa with our dry brush, and we're going to streak and give it some rustic wood look. So I know that we just covered the cocoa up with the other color, but this is how we're going to get this old gnarly looking boards. And that'll give us weathered looks and all kinds of things like that. Whoops, we do want to stay in the lines. Okay, so, oops, not too hard a pressure, because then that won't look like it's weathered. Okay, we'll just pull that back, just flicking. Okay, and then that gives us our weathered look. And then we want to go into a dark color. I have to see what I need. Okay, now we're going to shade between our planks with, what do I have here? Bittersweet chocolate. And those are not going to be even, and so you don't want to drag a fully straight line. And we'll do a little back-to-back action here. So my floats will kind of touch in the middle. And we'll come down here. Whoops, that's not it. That gives us some planks. And then this is going to come right underneath here, so that we have that resting on that. Okay, and we'll go, and I want to go ahead and just give him a little bit of a ends to things. You can drag in some grain just to give it just a little bit more. Give them a little bit of a knotty stuff going on there. Just dragging it with the tip of my brush. The paint is on the back side, so it's not leading. And that just adds to that texture. I want to cut in like some of this is chipped out. So now we have a big old chip right there. Same thing here. And the same thing down here, and then give it some grain. I think we'll go into a little bit of black. I'm not quite getting the depth that I'd like right here. Give it just a little bit more going on there. A little bit more. Okay, so that's got a little bit of a rustic-y look. All right, I've got my media acrylic raw umber. I'm going to see if this does anything for me. They just have this tendency to warm and brighten things up. I don't know what the thing is about not having full pigments in Deco Art Americana, But these full pigments just do magic things. So yeah, I like how that just gave it that little teeny bit of warmth. Like it just needed a little shazowie. So we'll come over here and we'll do the same. Same down here. And then maybe we'll go the same. Now we're going to use raw sienna and we're going to do our little stems. So I'll get my head out of the way. And we're just going to kind of sort of base them. And we're going to just get that established. Okay, so that just has a little bit of a foundation. And we'll do the same over here. Just using my round brush as a dry brush. Just kind of glazing or dry brushing, dragging the paint. I'm going to have to retrace this one. I can't see where that's going. Okay, then we'll go into cocoa and we will highlight, and we want to have a couple of little like sections coming together so that it looks like it is one of those gnarly looking stems. So just really kind of almost, it's like a linier, juicier kind of float, or not float, dry brush. And then give us a little stem top. And that will give us a little bit more kind of detailed stems. And I can twist around. Okay, and now I think we'll get a little bit more something going on with some wheat. I want to get my Raphael liner going, and I don't think this is the number 4. I think I need a smaller one. Okay, and I feel like my wagon here is fading away just a little bit, so I want to brighten up a little bit with my cocoa. I think that just ever so much. Okay, yeah, I think that's a little bit better. Okay, so now we're going to have a little bit of straw slash wheat slash stuff. We're going to use just a little bit and give it just a little kind of padding. Okay, give it some, got a little bit of cocoa, a little bit of raw sienna. Go ahead and let it kind of drape out of there. Come up behind our pumpkins. And this will just add to its rusticness. Okay, get your arm going in the right direction is always helpful. Okay, and that's giving a nice, fun little, feels like you could throw the kids in there and take them for a ride. And then we'll go out. Oops, hi. Don't base coat. So we definitely want this to be liney and flicky. So it's draping over. Okay, we're going to repeat a little bit. I think I'm going to have to mix cocoa plus antique white because that's too bright. Yeah, and mix it with a little bit of water. Okay, so that gives it just a little bit better. We want to bring it so it's flicking out of the cart and not all the same. Okay, and that gives us just a little bit better base. Then just a couple. Maybe even just a few little extra highlights over here on our stems, just to make things pop. And then I think we'll go into that marigold. Oops, a bit of water. And we'll bring out the yellows. So we'll just kind of almost be glazing. Give it just one more level of color. Okay, now we'll get to a little bit of our desert turquoise. And that's going to be just one of these weird little accent colors that we can drag along to give it, oops, get you on camera, sorry. We can drag along to just kind of create a little bit more attention. We can give our wheel a little bit. Help make it pop just a little. And give a little bit of that color to our pumpkins. Start carrying colors around. A little bit under here. Okay, and then I think maybe we get a little bit, I want to go a little bit marigold in our cart. So that'll brighten this up just a little bit. And then I think we'll float just a little bit of marigold on the top here. And then just to cluster, not too much, cluster some of that hay color. Okay, I'm wanting to reinforce with a little bit of carbon black. So right now what I'm going to do is just go carbon black underneath the wheel. I'm also wanting a little bit of something going on underneath, like almost like a wash. One gives it something to sit down on. And maybe a little bit coming up behind here. All right, I'm debating with myself about my colors for my letters, so I'll go ahead and show you what I'm doing and then we'll see what I end up with. So one debate is to go ahead and make, I think I'll go into raw sienna and base the tops of these letters with raw sienna and let them fade into the orange. Get that nice and faded. And then we'll go into a little bit of our marigold and let that kind of fade as well. All right, then we're going to go into our carbon black media paints and we're going to add a nice healthy drop shadow. And it's probably not going to show very much, but it will anchor it, and I think that'll be okay. And we may need to actually anchor this with another color, like the desert turquoise or something like that. We'll see when we get done. Okay, we're going to go back into our marigold and we're going to dry brush using our round brush just at the tops, just to give that just a little bit more pop up there. I don't want to base coat it, I don't want it to be yellow, I just want a hint. Cut on right through. It's just going to give it just a little bit more jazz. And then we'll repeat the bottom. Just a little bit. That'll do ya. Okay, and now my pumpkins are disappearing just a little bit. So we want to go into our pumpkins and give them just a little bit more marigold highlights. So that brightens those guys up. And maybe we can go just a little bit more in our wagon and a little bit more coming out.